You know, they might as well call it ISIS University. This is startling footage we're getting from our friends at Sky News that purports to show some of the high-tech little gadgets, terror gadgets, that they have developed thanks to all the money they've been getting from ransoms and oil and that sort of thing. Millions at its height per day. Apparently, it's made ISIS a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. But these are weapons, the likes of which you'd see in James Bond movies, suitcases that can explode, cars that even when they get near people start exploding. I could go on and on. Suffice it to say that the stuff that's on this tape would scare the you-know-what out of you. And the leader of UK's Independence Party, Nigel Farage, here to say, well, if this isn't proof that these are not exactly the JV team, he doesn't know what is. Nigel, good to have you. So much to talk about. First, on these details that are emerging about what ISIS has at its disposal now. What do you make of that?
I'm not surprised. I think it's actually been beyond doubt for some years that ISIS and indeed Al-Qaeda that went before it have realised, that they're not going to get on Fox News or any form of conventional media. They've got to make their own media, and they do that using social media. They do that using science and technology, and they're doing it rather well. The worry, of course, is the income they've got, and I ask a question because Britain and America, as part of NATO, are in an alliance with Turkey. I would suggest the evidence that Turkey is being used as a transit route, if indeed not even a sale point for oil that is funding much of this, is, I think, a question that NATO needs to ask. You know,
maybe you can help me understand your country a little bit here, a lovely country, visited many, many times. This notion about the new Jihad Johnny who's appeared in these tapes and everything else.
Yeah.
Do they appreciate the magnitude of this?
Well, look, the real worry is the last ISIS video, which showed the killing of 5 people suspected to be British informers, included 2 British-born people. One, a guy from the East End of London who was born a Hindu, who was a bouncy castle salesman. I mean, you can't get much more Western or modern than that. And the other, a young kid who was being used, whose grandmother was a Christian, whose grandfather was a cab driver here in London. And we're always told that jihadism appeals to those living on the fringes of society.
Exactly.
The real scare is that these 2 individuals, albeit one a minor, but these 2 individuals came from good, hard-working, decent London families. And what it shows you is that this virus of jihadism is even stronger than we'd previously thought.
Has anything changed in your country? I mean, post-Paris, I mean, even Parisians are saying, gee, maybe we do have to look at this radical Islam thing. Maybe we do have to get up to speed, that they're not just sort of like some sort of ancillary renegade group. Has anything changed?
No, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. I sit here tonight before you. You can see the Palace of Westminster, Big Ben behind me. And one of the other great British institutions is the BBC. Let me tell you, hundreds of times every single day, the BBC say the so-called Islamic State. They won't even call it Islamic State.
Is that right?
Because they believe that what is happening isn't Islamic, despite the fact that those who, in the very act of pulling the triggers in Paris, are shouting out Allahu Akbar. And I have to say this to you, Britain, or the British establishment, are still in denial about the scale of this problem.
And they have far greater time and free reign to rip you and not the guys you're talking about. That's another side issue. Do you get a sense, though, that given what ISIS is doing, given lately how Iran has been pretty flagrantly, sticking it in our face, in the Western powers' face, if not outright violating this nuke deal, certainly all but ignoring it, that they're just having, the bad guys are running with abandon here?
Well, yeah, but, I mean, here's what's really odd. That on the one hand, we can talk about Iran, we can talk about nuclear violations and our concern, and yet, again, and here's a question, certainly for Britain and partially for America, we call Saudi Arabia our friends. It is the Saudi Arabian money coming into Britain, coming into Germany, coming into France and Belgium that is funding the most extreme and radical mosques. And again, we've got to reassess who our friends are.